Alright, here we are, another one, we're back! So, as you can see, talking about Brazil again. Kind of been on this Brazilian kick, you know. If you watch this channel, this is definitely not the first one. I've done several other videos about Brazilian black metal, which I just always have had a connection to that, because there's that raw, feral sound that Brazil has, and it's always, you know, regional. Even it can be said for anything South American, Mexico, Chile, wherever. All the music from there always sounds just a little different, a little more feral. Just like Scandinavia has a certain sound, America, U.S. black metal has a certain sound, and I like it all. But today we're going to talk about more about Brazil. I've talked about the classic bands Mystifier, Sarcófago. I've done some other stuff too, but I'm going to talk about 3 bands that have connections to the old days of Brazilian black metal that are still around today, and they still have kept that original black metal, just raw sound from the early days. And I think these 3 bands, you may know them, you may not. If you don't know them, you need to go check them out, man, because they are holding this shit up right, you know? If you look at it, Brazil has always had a really strong connection with metal in general. And a lot of it has to do with the back history of Brazil. I mean, I'm not going to go through the whole history, but you know, they've gone through military dictatorship. They went from the 60s all the way through the mid-80s, and there was a lot of censorship and poverty and bullshit like that. So a lot of people had to deal with a lot of stuff like that. And it just seems to be that a lot of the youth just were drawn to heavy metal, you know, just that raw, rebellious outlet, you know, to fucking say, your fuck you attitude, we're tired of this shit. And it seems like, too, thinking about this, one big event in Brazil that I think really turned a lot of things this way was when Kiss played there in 1983 with the Vinnie Vincent lineup, and that was like fucking huge, and I think that really brought over a lot of people into fucking heavy metal. I mean, I know there was other things too, but that was a pretty prolific thing that happened back then. But again, going back to the extreme poverty, I think it gave metal a really authentic rage, you know, that really, I gotta say, resonated with working class youth motherfuckers, you know, out there. It's just that people were pissed off, tired of being poor, censorship bullshit, and they had this outlet to say, fuck you, and they ran with it. You know, and also in Brazil, it's historically Catholic and, you know, got a lot of influence by evangelical churches. So a lot of young people were just sick of that shit and rebelling against it. They saw metal as just an evil anti-establishment avenue to take, and that's why they went to that direction. And that's why I think you look, all these bands were ultra satanic and ultra just occult and all decked out and all this shit. And of course, looking back, you know, Venom, early stuff in Bathory, those Corthon pictures, you know, the spikes and jacket leather shit and everything. But I think that in Brazil, they really took it to another level. And everybody always talks about the Sarcófago INRI cover, and it truly is iconic. That whole photo shoot, it's just iconic. I mean, it's influenced so many bands. I mean, even look at this shit I got. I'm got all fucking weird shit, spikes and shit. I mean, that is a direct influence from that all the way back in the 80s when the Sarcófago did that. And the thing about Brazil is they were very much influenced by a lot of the European bands. You know, if you look at a lot of the bands, they were into early Napalm Death and Creator and Sodom and stuff like that. But I feel they put their own mix into it. And a lot of it had to do with the conditions. The poverty, they didn't have access to nice amplifiers and great recording studios. They recorded with whatever they could, and some of it just was just very raw, but I feel like that rawness truly captured the feeling. You know, kind of like New York City hardcore in the early 80s. That music really grabbed the feeling of those times. I think when you listen to Agnostic Front, Victim in Pain, or any of that early stuff like that, Cro-Mags, Age of Quarrel, it truly does grab that gritty feeling. And that's what I feel about these early Brazilian bands, Sarcófago, early Sepultura, stuff like that. It really encapsulated that. And also in the 1980s, the underground tape trading network was the same there. That's how Sarcophago's demos got circulated all through Europe and got a cult underground following. You know, Belo Horizonte, Sao Paulo, all these areas were a hotbed for music. You know, finally, Brazil got their global recognition with Sepultura, broke out and made their name. You know, once they did, you know, Schizophrenia, and then especially Beneath the Remains, they became an international act, and they still are. Of course, for me, you know, here, the last good Sepultura album was Arise. After that, I don't like any of that shit at all. But the early stuff, I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due, man. That early stuff, fucking great. Now, the first band I want to talk about, Bestymator, however you fucking say it. I don't give a fuck. Bestymator. That is a classic late 80s Brazilian black metal band that truly had the look, the occult look, the signature goat skull in the face, microphone with the vocals, and the seance on the stage. 1989, and to this day they are still active. So it's not a band that went one way and did another. Because, like for example, like Sarcófago, I fucking love Sarcófago, but man, once they got to Law of Scourge, and then after that, man, that stuff was fucking crap. I mean, I like Laws of Scourge, that's a good album, but even then, though, they were trying to get some more commercial sounding shit. And the albums after that, fucking trash. I mean, honestly, Sarcófago, Hate, if they re-recorded that album with real drums, that would be a fucking good album. The other one, The Worst, I'm not a fan of that one, but this album, Hate, that could have been really good. I'm getting off topic though. Sarcófago spun off from the original vision. Bestymator never did. They still kept up with that shit. Basically, in 1989, they were formed. They were originally called Transgressor. Then, 1990, they took the name Bestymator from Sao Paulo, just like for a lot of other great bands. And basically, from 1990 to 2000, they were active, and then they took a little break, and then came back to 2011. Now they're still active, and they have that pure black metal tradition of the lo-fi intensity, you know, that kind of shit, but pure occult and blasphemy. The shit that you want to hear. In 1991, they had a demo. It was called Desire of Leviathan, kind of like basically a rehearsal demo. And they even admitted, the band said, you know, early they were inspired by the classics, Sodom, Possessed, Venom, and then also the infamous Warfare Noise Comp, Brazil. I mean, that's ideal. I mean, that is one of the most influential compilations of all time. They were also influenced by Corzus, which is funny. Corzus, the first time I heard of that band was when I bought Sepultura, Beneath the Remains. I used to look at all the band names they think, and Corzus was one of the ones, for whatever reason, it stuck out in my head, so I had to go check them out, and all other bands that were on there. really at Bestymator, they always just wanted to have a overall freedom of expression, freedom of religion, you know, to do whatever the fuck they want. And visuals also really played a big part of their stage presence. I mean, look at even to this day, they still, when they play a show, they put the time into it to have, you know, blasphemous rituals and outfits and whatnot. And I fucking love that shit, man. When I listen to black metal, I want to see that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's also interesting though, between 91 and 95, they did not do a second demo. They finally did one, the Pela Gloria do Mal, but between the 90 and 95, they even said there was nothing done, just live shows. And they have never done a full length, which would be interesting they did, but they've done a ton of splits, and there was a compilation that came out in 2022 that had a lot of their demos and splits and rehearsals on there, but no full length to this date. Or the last time they recorded anything was 2017, and I think they're about due to put something out new, but yeah, Bestymator, if you don't know them, check the motherfuckers out. Now moving on, next, Impurity. Maybe you might know this band, boy. I don't fucking know, but this is another classic band from the late 80s that are still around, and they're still fucking just pure blasphemy, fucking the shit that I like. The band formed in 1988 from Belo Horizonte, Brazil. You know, the same place, man. Sarcófago, Sepultura, Mystifier, Holocausto, all that good shit. And the band, early on, they made sure they let it know they were firmly into Satanism and occultism. And as with a lot of bands, they had that really unpolished sound, but I fucking love it. Love it, man. Their first album, The Lamb's Fury, came out in 1993, Cogumelo Records. You know Cogumelo, big deal in Brazilian metal music. And I've talked about them in other videos before. Check that shit out. But it was a vinyl only, full length, and they considered it a cult classic, one of their best. And I know Nuclear War Now has reissued it, good stuff. It is an excellent album, but for me, my favorite release by them is Into the Ritual Chamber. I don't know, it came out in 1996, I mean, years later, but came out Cogumelo again on CD. Into the Ritual Chamber, just the cover of that demon-looking shit on the cover, it just caught my attention. It has a very dark, ritualistic feel to it. I know Grey Haze has reissued it before, and Rick Grey Haze has done some great Sarcophago reissues and stuff. The version of this album, it also has some live tracks, but what I like about Impurity, especially this album, it's got the typical fast, unpolished, raw black metal, and some of the shit, the drums even sound kind of off, but I'm okay with that. An average person, like a really technical death metal guy, oh, that fucking sucks. I fucking like that shit. I mean, as long as the drums are not falling apart to complete shit, but it's just raw enough to make it sound feral, like it's fucking some demons in the woods making evil music or some shit. That's what it sounds like to me, and that's what I want to hear. And also what I like about it, besides the Brazilian sound, the Sarcófago sound, all that kind of shit, they also have a lot of palm muted, heavy, slowing it down. I fucking love that kind of shit, man. It just goes from the, fast black metal kind of shit, and it stops and the vocals vary from some kind of death metal kind of shit to more black metalish. Great album, man. Again, everybody talks about the Lamb series the best, but I don't know, man. I always go to Into the Ritual Chamber as one of my favorites. Another album they did, Necro Infamus of Tumulus Return, 1986, Cogmello. Good album, real cheap ass looking cover. What's kind of interesting too is after years and years of nothing, 2019 they released a new album, All in the Name of Satan, and it still touched upon their sound. It didn't alter it at all. I mean, it's a lot of bands that they haven't released something in years, and then it comes back, it's kind of like, this doesn't even sound like the same band. Well, they still kept up the same shit, I gotta say. So again, Impurity, fucking great. And these bands still playing live. I'd be great to see them live. They're fucking even better if we can go play a show with them. We ever get lucky for that. But anyway, man, fucking Impurity. And lastly, last band I'll talk about is Tormentador. Now, this band is newer. They started in 2020, so like, yeah, 20, that's new band, why the fuck are you talking about them? Well, if you know any fucking shit, you know this band, it's newer, but it's got fucking old school motherfuckers who are around from back then, so they have a very firm foot into those old days of Brazilian black metal. Like I said, another band from Belo Horizonte, Brazil, again. And it's got Rodrigo, who was in Holocausto, also Impurity, I just talked about them. And then Armando, who was played in Sarcófago for a little bit, Mutilator and Holocausto. So all of them has had their hands in, all of those in this band have been in other bands that were very integral to the early creation of the Brazilian black metal scene. So that, just by that alone, by default, this new band, Tormentador, you need to check them out just because of that. So basically, when Holocausto kind of was falling apart, this project came together after that. It has a very much black death metal feel to it. To me, it's very war metal. Definitely very war metal. You can tell they were trying to recreate that mid-'80s raw sound. And it's got the production is a little better, but still, it still has that raw, feral sound. And that's why I am mentioning this band here, because you need to check them out. And they've only been a short period of time. They've put out some pretty good releases. They did the Morta Negra, which was on Nuclear War Now Records. I have that. Great fucking album. Excellent album. I mean, a lot of people talk about them as being, someone bringing back the old style of Brazilian black metal, and they're keeping it alive. And I feel that with all three of these bands, they are. And then most recently did a split with Goat Semen, which is great fucking war metal shit. Which, speaking of Goat Semen, on Tampa Morgue, they just recently did an interview with Goat Semen on there. So if you don't, I always talk about Tampa Morgue podcast, one of the best on the fucking internet. But you need to go check that out. They did a great fucking interview with Goat Semen, talking about their history, talks about the split with Tormentador and other things. Yeah, that's about it. I just want to talk about these bands and bring them to your attention, because I feel like they need to be covered. More shit's coming in this kind of format. With this channel, I try to mix things up, not so much just talking head videos, go back to more of a kind of a documentary style video, if you will. But anyway, more shit's coming, more stuff, coverage of bands, all that shit. So here we go, motherfucker!